Hey guys, it's David again, and this is Unbound. And today I'm going to be working on just a small project on my RV, a little bit of maintenance that I've had to do a few times on each corner of this travel trailer since I've owned it, and that is replacing this corner trim right here. Now, in the 7 years that I've owned this travel trailer, I've had to replace this corner trim on every corner, and I believe this is the second time I've had to replace it on this specific corner. You know, it just gets brittle over time being in the sun, getting hot and expanding, and then getting cold and contracting. And this plastic just gets brittle over time with, you know, the sun just beating down on it constantly. And with it being black in color, that doesn't help either because it just attracts more sunlight, more heat, and it just degrades the plastic even faster. And this is an RV maintenance thing that I believe that every RV owner should know how to do and be able to do themselves, because in the 7 years we've owned it, I've had to do this job multiple times, and it's really important to keep out water intrusion. And you know, as RVers, we all know that leaks in an RV is basically a death sentence. If you have a leak, you're going to get water damage. It's going to damage the wood that is under this trim, and you know, that is, you know, going to just ruin your rig, because once that water damage is done, nothing short of pulling out the wood and replacing it is gonna fix the problem. So it's much easier to just do this preventative maintenance at a regular schedule. When you notice it cracking, when you notice it's broken off, just getting on it really quickly to keep out water intrusion. And you don't need any crazy tools for this job. You just need a ladder, a pair of scissors, either a drill or a socket wrench, some Dyrt lap sealant, a caulk gun, and the plastic trim itself. You'll want to make sure that you get the right width of that corner trim first, so make sure you measure your existing, because there's not a standard, there are different widths, so just make sure you get the right stuff. The first step is to remove this screw at the bottom of your vinyl trim that holds on this small metal cap. And then with that removed, you can just start peeling out the vinyl trim from this groove. Removing the old cracked and broken vinyl trim is pretty easy. You just pull it right out from the groove. Behind that vinyl trim is this corner cap piece that's held in with screws, and water is sealed between it and your siding with butyl tape or some other type of seal. You'll probably notice, like on my trailer, that some of these screws have loosened up and backed out. This is why replacing the vinyl trim when it breaks is so important, because this is a point where water can get in. Since I'm gonna need to reseal these screw holes, I'm just gonna clean it up really quick just to get out any loose dirt or other debris that may be hanging around that might get in the way of a watertight seal. And then up on the roof at the other end of this groove where your vinyl trim slides into, you're probably gonna have some Dyrt sealant that needs to be removed also. And so I'm just gonna tear off any that's left that is in the way of this groove and in the way of me putting in new vinyl trim. And then just like everywhere else, I'm gonna clean it with some soap water just to remove any dirt or debris. And then one by one, I'm gonna check each of these mounting screws to see if they're loose, and if they are, I'm gonna remove them, clean up the grooves on the threads, and then reseal them. Here's another screw that's loose. I'm gonna need to pull this out so that I can make a proper watertight seal within the threads of this screw. All you need to do is just apply a little blob of Dyrt lap sealant directly to that hole, and I'm also gonna apply some Dyrt all around the threads so that when I run this screw in, the Dyrt is gonna mix all in with the threads. It's gonna fill up that hole and create a watertight seal there. And then here's another screw, so I'm gonna run it out and repeat that process. Put a little blob of Dyrt, put some Dyrt on the threads as well, and then run that in through the hole to create a nice watertight seal. Once all those holes on loose screws have been properly sealed back up, now we can go ahead and install the vinyl trim. So at the bottom, we'll need to poke a hole with the screw that mounts that cap to the bottom of this groove, and then we can replace that metal plate run in the screw, and I put a little bit of die-core on this screw too. I don't think it's really necessary because it's at the very bottom of the groove, but I don't know. I figured why not. And then you can start pushing the vinyl trim into the grooves. It's a little tricky, but it's not too terribly hard. You just sort of pinch the center to bring the outsides in, and then you can just push it into the retaining grooves. It's a pretty tedious process, a little slow going, but you know, with a little patience and time, you know, you'll be done before you know it. And another technique I found effective is to slide one side into the groove, and then you just sort of push the other side down and in. A lot of times I find this method more effective and faster. It feels like you can do longer lengths at a time, and I think this way gets the job done faster. And then back up on the roof, we just continue to push this vinyl trim into the groove until we get to the very end. And I just cut mine flush right with the end of the groove that it slides into. And then to seal up this end, I just apply a liberal amount of die-core lap sealant. I really use a lot. I figure too much die-core is better than not enough. And so, yeah, I just really spread it around, and using die-core lap sealant for this part is pretty important. This is really the best stuff when it comes to sealing up potential points of water intrusion on the roof of your RV. What I really like about it is it's self-leveling, and so, you know, after you've applied it to the roof, it will just slowly flow out smooth, and it'll flow into any cracks, any grooves, as it's curing to give a good solid watertight seal. And then just to be extra sure that it works its way everywhere, I spray a little soap water on my fingers so that the die-core won't stick to my fingers, and I just, you know, press it around on all the sides just to make sure it works into the tiny little texture of my rubber roof, as well as any cracks or grooves on the existing die-core, and of course down into the grooves of the vinyl trim. So back down on the ground, I'm showing you where the butyl tape is really started to crack, where the corner trim is supposed to seal up to my aluminum siding. Now I can't let this go because this will eventually lead to water damage. So the first thing I'm going to do is clean it up with some soap water, and then I'm going to apply a bead of die-core lap sealant here as well to seal this up. Granted, this is a bit of a band-aid fix. What you typically need to do when the seal behind this corner trim piece starts to fail is you need to remove this corner trim piece completely. But since the butyl tape is only bad in this section, I'm just going to do this band-aid fix now, and I will return to this at a later time to do, you know, a full reseal of this corner piece. But this is what you can do just as a quick and dirty to make sure that you don't get water intrusion in the meantime. And here's the new vinyl trim installed. It looks great, there's no cracks, and it's going to do its job at not allowing water to intrude. And that's it. It's a pretty simple job. It only takes, I mean, probably 30 minutes to do one of these corners like this. By taking care of that, you can rest easy knowing that everything's sealed up. Those screw holes, if you know, water does get behind the vinyl trim, which it will, then you know by putting the die-core around the threads of those screws, you know that those screw holes are sealed up and won't allow water intrusion. But what do you do if, when you know, you look at your corner pieces and you realize that the seal behind the plastic molding that the screws run into, if you know, that has degraded, like how you saw that little area that I kind of patched up, if yours is worse than that, if you can tell that the seal is broken behind that trim molding, what you're gonna need to do is take all of the screws out of it, pull that whole piece off. It comes off as one, and then behind that is going to be just old butyl tape or maybe some sealant tape, kind of like a Turnabond tape or something. You know, you'll want to peel all that off, scrape all of that sealant off, and then wrap that corner with more, you know, new fresh butyl tape along that entire length of that molding. Put it back into place, run the screws back in again with die-core around the threads, and then replace the that plastic trim like I showed in this video. It's super important to stay up on top of things like that because, again, water intrusion in an RV can be an absolute death sentence for the rig. You know, if you allow moisture to collect on the wood behind these seals, it's just gonna rot out. It's gonna show on the outside. It's going to be spongy and flexible on the inside, and it's just gonna wreak havoc on everything. And so doing what I showed in this video is gonna make it so everything stays sealed up nice and well, and you don't have water intrusion in these corners, and your RV is gonna last longer and retain its value longer. I'm really happy with how this job went. You know, the fresh and new plastic trim looks really good, and you know, my die-core ceiling on the top and my little patch job here on the corner isn't the prettiest. I'm not the best at laying die-core down, but you know, the most important thing is that I know that it's forming a good seal and is gonna keep the water out. But that's it for this video. Again, my name's David. This is Fade Unbound. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you found this video helpful, you want to see more like it, then please consider subscribing. It would really help me out. But again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.